I'm actually, my background's in training and simulation. I'm actually very interested in artificial intelligence. And you probably know all this, where computers will become almost as intelligent as humans and then become even more intelligent than humans, that idea of singularity. And what I'm interested in from a simulation point of view, and will there be a world actually where the simulation may be just as good as the real world? So that's what I'm going to talk about. And here actually is a real video and a real game. And it is difficult to tell the difference. If you look long enough, and we don't have time, you can tell the difference. But it is quite, that is the way technology is going. So, but what is a simulation? Without getting too techie, in a sense, the key things is you need a model, and then you need to model run the model over time. But you also need data. And so it's very easy to model and simulate a pendulum, but simulating two pendulums attached is actually very difficult. It's chaotic. And one of the best examples of a chaotic system is the weather. And so in many ways, if you look at this headline, it sounds really good, but you think computing power, how that's grown in 20 years, and all the sensors around the world, it's actually not that impressive. It just shows you how difficult it is to simulate ahead the weather. It's very, very chaotic system. And indeed, there are other situations where you actually can model the system, but you don't have the data. So we don't know that asteroid's out there, but we know what's going to happen if we do see it. And equally, like a volcano, it's actually very difficult. It's very easy to get all the data, but we can't model a volcano. So there are some systems where it's actually very difficult, and whether we'll be able to solve these anytime soon. So you can say, well, that's very interesting, Andy. Why are you talking about this? But actually, in many other regards, simulation technology is growing hugely, and without going through all of those, and there's probably others, but all this, the ability to model things and having all the data there is just getting better and better. So this is a great visual representation. This is only 30 years of video games, and we can see on the left, that's Atari, and then on the right, that's PlayStation 4. And we know also in the world of VR, there are new entrants, so VR, virtual reality, is not a new idea, but obviously Oculus Rift. And if a bit of my background is in battle simulations, so again, it's looking almost like the real world, and these are real physics, so real artillery shells, real tank shells, really modeled, representative. And then, obviously, we'll run through, there's a whole loads of other simulators. So this is a US Navy, NASA one, spacewalk simulator. Of course, the cost has come down, crucially, so we can now do simulation at home. Here we're doing a flight simulator. Engineering simulation, medical simulation, so it doesn't all need to be in a computer. And this is, to me, completely mind-blowing now. I think 15% of gambling in this country is virtual, so you can gamble on virtual horse races, so these aren't real horse races. They're simulated horse races or tennis, whatever. And if we look at maybe simulating a black hole, that's actually because it's light years away. In fact, almost we're simulating the past. So that's a more philosophical point. Here, you can't see it, but here's Google simulating traffic on a Monday morning around London on the M25. So it's a bit dim there. And we've had a few talks about Internet of Things, so obviously we couldn't go any further without talking about that. But actually, that's going to open up all this data out there we can start putting into simulations and then, like Google do, see what might happen ahead. So all these technologies, the other aspect here is the relationship between simulation and artificial intelligence and robotics. So actually, Boston Dynamics was bought by Google, but they started as a simulation company, so if you can simulate things in the simulation, and then you can take the same algorithms to control real things. And here's totally fascinating, where we're training robots in simulation. So this was just last year, because I don't have time to explain why you'd want to do that. You look it up. But basically, the robot is outside. It's not autopilot. It's outside. It's learning. So it's a bit like putting a robot in a car, and it will drive the car, a sort of robotic chauffeur. So simulation, I've touched on all these things, in a sense can be used as a unifying medium for all of these sort of initiatives going forward in the future. So if that was really one of the sort of main things I wanted to put in your mind as a sort of unifying medium. But my final few slides is there is also a philosophical point about this, because we know children are spending a lot of time, and adults of course, in Minecraft. But is that turning into their world? So this idea that Minecraft is their world. And we've seen that, of course, in Second Life, where people have got married in Second Life, etc. And indeed, this is Second Life, so this is a simulation of a simulation. So this is a simulated holodeck, like in Star Trek. So in the future, so what is simulation, what isn't? And of course, we couldn't not talk about the Matrix. So I'm not going to show all the green digits, but the interesting idea of the construct where you just download the program that you want to do that day. So who is deciding, though, what is your world? Who's deciding that what is in the simulation? And if we go back nearly 2,500 years, Plato's allegory of the cave, it's worth reading this, because the prisoners on the left there are only seeing what they're told to see by the people moving these shadows in front of the flame there. So their world, or their world, is actually a simulation, but they think it is the real world. So these aren't new ideas brought about by computers. We've always, in a sense, got to think, well, what is real and what is simulated? Who is deciding what's in my world? And my final slide is that although, and as I say, I'm really keen on artificial intelligence and all that, I think it's fascinating, but we shouldn't forget that the human mind has been around for millions of years. It's actually very good at deciding what data, it can cause problems in deciding what data we remember, but actually it's very good. And we play back our lives and we think ahead, we actually dream, we simulate, we dream of things that happen in the past or might happen in the future. So actually, our brains are probably still the ultimate simulator, and although I do believe in singularities, there is a really fascinating philosophical point about all of this. So as we go into the future, I'll just leave you with that thought, that your brain is actually still the ultimate simulator. And with 1 minute to go, that's the presentation, so I'm happy to take questions. It was deliberately a 10-minute short talk. I just wanted to put some of those ideas in your mind. So thank you for your attention.